Good evening, everyone. We get the shower curtains back where they belong, because we'll be flinging some water and chips for sure. Hi, honey. This is some good quality wet stuff. I don't know about, I shouldn't say good quality, but it is good and wet. I actually sold it probably actually a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago maybe. This is an ornamental cherry. Has some little knobs up here like they could actually be some burl, but I'm not really sure. It's wet. It was stored in a plastic tub, and the little green things are actually coming out of those little nodule things, bump things, or whatever. We need to go that way and probably go that way. And we'll get her into some sort of round shape here. A little disorganized here at the moment. That's what I wanted. Been working outside most of the afternoon, so this might be a little short stream. As always, we're going to spin by hand, turn the speed way down, because what we were doing yesterday, we certainly don't need that speed. Come up to where we get some vibration and back out a little bit. We'll cut from the top down. And let's see, we'll get her into some sort of round. This is kind of an odd shape, a little bit of a log. I probably could have done something maybe a little bit different with it. I'm gonna move it a little bit more that way. And then we might just leave it alone at that. More interested in the high points. So in moving that, I moved that the wrong way. That's that way. Really, that's why I don't use the center point in the tailstock in the live center for this kind of work. That way it's easy to move just a little bit at a time. And it's definitely plenty wet, so there is some figure there. There actually are, I guess, little burls. Maybe I should have done something different with them, but they'll still show up in the finished piece. So we're there. We're still not. Move it one more time, and then we're going to call it good enough. It's getting hard to actually move it that far. It doesn't want to twist quite like that. So we'll just make one more cut and we'll call that good enough. And we'll just have, this will be one that'll have a lower side on one side. It's getting a little big down there because I'm moving it. Only go at the speed that it wants to go. If it starts bouncing, that means I'm trying to go faster than what the wood is going around. Just want to get that last little bit, and then we'll square up the bottom. That should be all right. That looks good enough. For a rough turn piece, it'll be just fine. Because it's going to have to sit and dry. This is lots of sapwood, so it is plenty wet. Plenty close to the tool rest, but that's fine. Take that off first. And we can find the mousey. Here, mousey over here. You can go to there. Move that camera over to there. That'll give us the dual view. Make sure everything's tight. And we know out here is where it's at. That should be. At least by the way it felt. Yeah, it's flat. Definitely not very cleanly cut, but it's flat. I wasn't worried about the clean part. And we'll use the bigger jaws to grab this. So we'll get that marked up so we know where we're going to. Once we get in that far, now we'll get rid of this corner. Should be able to pick the speed up a bit. Might not be able to go super fast because it's kind of still going to have some out of balance to it. Now we can use a proper cut. So it'll be nice and clean that way, at least somewhat. So that will be our tenant. Could possibly be a little bit deeper. We're not quite where we want to be anyhow. So we'll make our tenant. Use my parting tool that's grounded at an angle. In there like that. Now I should be able to sneak in there, get a proper cut. So it'll should make it nice and clean. It should catch everything. Yeah, it will. Just running out of tool rest up there. I guess I really should say too much overhang on the tool, especially when it's going slower, makes it more difficult. Back here. And right off the end. It should have gotten rid of the flats. Any of the flats. It does have some figure there. We'll see whether it survives. A lot of this ornamental stuff is not very cooperative because a lot of times it's very, very wet. Holds the moisture like crazy. Being that it has a lot of sapwood in it, that it's even going to be wetter. I'm just making sure my tenant is right. Nice crisp corner in the bottom, so the jaws have somewhere to seat. The little nub at the bottom will fit in between the chuck jaws. So that's certainly good enough for a rough turn bowl on the outside. Anyhow, so now we can flip it around. We don't need our tailstock anymore. At least I put it to you this way. I don't use the tailstock. Once I flip it around, unless it would be something giant size. And this is certainly not giant size. I only started out at about 8 inches. But I do need to get these done because they are starting to grow. Not in a good way. Lift the lid off that tub. It's kind of giving you a rather unpleasant aroma. So we'll put our grain with the jaws. And good and tight. This one here is probably going to be a little different since I normally go right straight to the middle, but I think we'll go this one since we kind of have two humps up here. We'll sort of do the two humps first, and then we'll clean out some of the middle. Something along those lines. Can also switch over to 40-degree gouge to do some of that work. There's the short on that one. Just get them both out. So we changed something. I'll slow the speed way down again because we don't know whether we did something wrong. You can check on a place that's solid. It's running nice and true, which it should. There should be no real reason that it shouldn't. Need to look where the inside of those knobs are at. Over that far. Let's bring our tool rest over a little bit further. Try and stay above the tool post as much as I can. It just gives it better support. Now that I've taken some of that goofiness out of it, now it's pretty closer to being in balance more so. So I can get the speed up a little bit faster. It's on a natural edge piece. The faster I can spin it, for the most part, the easier it becomes. I'm going to leave it about an inch. We've got another 1/8 of an inch to take out. And then we'll check to make sure that we're parallel on the side. Which from my vantage point, I would say that it is, but there's some of that goofiness. I left a ridge. this survives the drying process. It'll be kind of an unusual looking piece, I think. I go a little bit. Feels like I'm actually pretty consistent, but I got to get it small enough for my calipers to go over. I think this is where I have it set at. If I set it at an inch, I could have went just a little over an inch, would have been better. We're thickening up a little bit as we go down, but that's okay. That's easy enough to correct. Easier to correct that than it is to go the other way and have it going thinner as we want to go down. Let's see where our tool rests. Kind of, I was thinking it was a shade on the low side. And I probably should go to the longer one. But now I have meat grinders sticking out here. I'm sort of going to be working inside of them. So we don't want to make that trip to the ER room tonight. So now we'll get some room to move. It sounds like there's some knotty stuff or something in there. And we're getting a bit of tool overhang too, which never helps you. It does have some, hopefully it survives, because it does have some, at least on one side. Well, it has it on both sides. There's some like, I don't know if I'd necessarily call, it's sort of burly looking stuff. Definitely has some character to it, put it that way. Be careful where I thought I was going a little bit too straight. Gotta get I do have my other sort of the bottom bowl gouge. So I'll just finish it out with that. Make it a little bit easier. It's on a 5/8 inch bar. I could use the bigger one yet, but each progressive cut goes a little bit deeper in the middle, so we're still creating a round surface in there. Picking up the cut on these in sort of no man's land is sort of challenging, I think, because the wings are pretty much straight up and down. It really looks like the tool rest needs to be moved a bit. There's where my usual nemesis is, to pick up that cut right on that little line where I stopped at before. I usually just give up and go back to my normal bowl gouge, and I'll run it just a little bit further around the corner. It just makes life that much easier. It's also kind of being lazy in a way. So I only got to go in there just a little bit. These will really make you concentrate on coming around the corner though, because they will grab if otherwise. And we're actually just a little bit high on it as I come across them above the center point. Like I say, it's a rough turn bowl, so I'm not trying to make the walls consistent. We actually got a bit thinner down there than we are at the top. But it's actually thick enough right now that I could actually come back up here and take a little bit out of the top. Because this, like I say, this is all sapwood up here, so there's already more moisture up here than what there is down there. So we gotta get that last little bit out of the middle. And just come back up here. Find my bevel. Find where it's gonna cut. Little wisp of shaving. Out here, no man's land. Blend that in a little bit. Like I say, it's not a finished, I mean, it's going to be cleanly cut any way I do it for the most part. I think there's a little on the flat side on the bottom. So, let's play with another toy. Tool rest needs to go up just a shade. See what the traditional scraper will do to sopping wet wood, because this certainly dead center can use a bit more wood out of it. Because there's a tenant on the other side. Just see what it does. I still have more work to do on this. This needs to be rounder than what it is, because I will have trouble coming around this corner. The radius is actually smaller than what this area would be to go any further with it. And like I say, we're not worried about it being a perfect cut at this point. We just need to get them rough turned so they can go take a nap in their bag. You can see their place plenty wet. Everything's going to turn yucky. So that's one. I actually only got one ready, so we're going to have to go over here and grab another piece. But like I say, it does have some nice sort of burl figure running down through there. A little bit more on the other wing. It shows up better sort of on the outside. You can see the light streaks. So if it survives the drying, which hopefully it will, might end up being a pretty nice piece. I won't mess too hard with things. Some of these are actually pretty small, and they also don't have a whole lot of depth to them, which is sort of what I want. I don't really want them to be deep because they're a natural edge. You got sap coming out of these too. So 7, we'll just say it's 3.5, and we're thereabouts. This one also, I think we'll come into 3.5 from, there's sort of a fatter side to it. So we'll do it that way. And this one we won't even bother to cut it on the bandsaw. We can just turn these corners away. I just planted some stuff in my garden today, so we need some free kind of mulch to put around the stuff so the weeds go away. And this is usually what I use, is just some nice fresh shavings. A little careful on which kind of shavings I would use, but cherry should be fine. I don't think I wouldn't want to use some of the oaks and stuff like that, because there's too much. Oak has a bunch of tannic acid in it. I think so does the walnut. So that may actually kill the plants rather than protect them. And we'll probably go sharpen our gouges before we even start. I didn't do that to begin today. Or maybe we'll just take the wings off of it first. Like I say, that yucky stuff on the top there, that's actually mold that's growing on them. And it happens sort of rather quickly to them. That should be close enough. We can sort of maybe eyeball it a little bit. And that's really just sort of almost, at this point, that's almost a guess as to moving it a little bit. Maybe sort of a calculated guess, but nonetheless, it's a guess. So we'll bring our speed way down once again. And we'll come up to where we get vibration. We know that the bottom of it is where the long points that stick out are. We can pick up our cut farther down. We need to get kind of almost hard. It's really almost hard to see how much you're cutting off because it's not moving very fast. But we know we took the corners away. This is how I do them a lot of times, especially when they're small like this. I don't really need all the little itty bitty chunks of wood that you get off these corners. I'd rather turn them into chips. We're getting closer to the middle. I'm not going to worry about adjusting anything until I get it completely round. Obviously, I wasn't quite as accurate measuring as what I could have been. I also got rid of corners, so pick up a couple RPMs on the dial, so every little bit will help. And if I look up at the top while I'm cutting, I can sort of see when it becomes round. Sort of. So around there, we have no more flats there. No more, well, there's still a little one there, but that one doesn't really matter. So now we can even things up. Let's start with our high ones. They're pretty close. The low one. Not quite so much. I think we want to go just a little bit in that direction. I'm only moving over maybe 1/8 of an inch, something like that. It's not drastic. Not sure whether the brown stuff is actually some of the mold and stuff that actually went in further. So we'll check it once more. See whether I moved it too much. I don't believe. I think that's good enough. Not sure about that stuff, but we'll proceed on. I'm not quite sure what that'll do for me or to me. If I leave it, well, I'm pretty sure that's because of it was starting to grow mold up in there. So we might shrink it down some more yet in diameter before we get it all done. So now we'll make it flat. Let me get rid of this corner. Wonders of wet wood that you can make huge cuts even with a smaller bowl gouge, with no real effort. Let's see what that one didn't chew up the bottom, so we're good. Marker tenant. It's definitely a bigger foot than what we will possibly need when we get done, but that's also going to go egg shaped and every other kind of shape before as it dries. So that has to be trued up again. You know, I said that was very shallow. I sort of have straight. It's definitely straighter than what I want. We're going to have to work a little bit more at that. We might have to if I can just take a little bit more off the base. Even though it's a rough turn piece, I still need to kind of have the general curve that I want. And that's not. It's getting a little better. So if we bring the tenant into there, that should make me happy, I think. I think. Very simple. It's a parting tool. Just ground at an angle, which matches the dovetail jaws on my chuck. So that just tucked everything in a little better. See lots of flyers. That's the wonders of any of the cherry. The outside bark, the little black part, is like paper, so it doesn't. It probably will come off anyhow. Oops. That does help. Obviously, they didn't want it too bad then, didn't they? So I do want it clean in there. And I can get rid of that corner. That nub should still fit in between the jaws, I think. If not, we'll break it off, cut it off, do something with it. Make sure all our mating surfaces are clean. A little flick at the end keeps it on. I'm not a person that uses those little grub screws to hold the chuck on. I don't find a need for it. Actually, comes right down to it. Vic don't see the need for it either because there is no place, there is none on their chucks. I was using some sort of a tool that maybe cut on the upside rather than the downside, maybe it would be different, but I don't use one of them kind of tools, so I definitely don't feel a need for it. So, see whether we got enough edge left on the 40°. That's the other thing working with wet wood. Your tools stay sharp much, much longer. They're not working as hard. This one's actually better than the other one. This one I was able to go right up to speed, or at least right up to the speed I want to go. Less resistance to the cut, so. It's probably not quite enough yet. This bark is very distracting. You would think you should be able to cut through that without fraying it up, but it does not work. So we're good on that end. This one even has a red streak in it. It's kind of weird. But I think they add a little character to it. So that should be what we need. Didn't have a very good transition line there, but that's, like I say, it's doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. But it bothers you, like it usually does me. Just go back and make one little light cut. down into there. And then we'll just go back to our bottom guy. One problem with the wet wood, it sticks to everything. I definitely have a ridge in there. The ridge means that's also a place that's going to take going to take a little bit longer to dry than everywhere else. Maybe it's being too picky, but ridge is right there. I'll just pick up the cut behind it. Go through that one into the other one. Go right towards center, and I can't see center because everything wrapped around it. So it's just a matter of stop, adjust, cut through center. Of course, the other thing when you do natural edge, the chips do not fly out of them either, as you can see. Maybe I should check it. Definitely got thinner as we went down. I think it'll be all right because we have more mass down here in the bottom. So it can be thinner down in here because you still have a tenant and the extra material down there that needs to dry along with it. So I don't get too excited about that part. I'd rather have it that it gets thinner up in like in this area, which is where it's at, because this still has to dry along with it. So in theory, it's not really thinner. So that's two down. This tub needs to get emptied out because there's actually water in the bottom of it. I have actually have three more pieces in there, but the other three pieces are actually double, like double length of these. This one will make it more interesting because there's a little chunk sticking out, but it won't stick out for long. We are going to go sharpen everything up. Might actually have to clean up a little bit too. We can get this mounted up. And we'll do we'll just do the same cheater way. I don't view it as cheater way. And just slighting down across the end of there, so it's about 7.5, so 3 3/4. And we're about 7.5 that way, so 3 3/4 again. Simple math. Take our spade bit. Spade bit works better than the Forstner bit for this. by virtue of the Forstner bits don't necessarily like to start on a surface that's uneven, so to speak. I use a corner of my workbench or outfeed table, which has a 4-inch leg on it, so it's very solid. I don't want to bend over to the floor. Wouldn't recommend doing it on the lathe bed. That's putting a lot of extra pounding on there that it's not designed for. Get that out of the road. So we're going to go sharpen some tools. Let them out of the road. But as you can see, those teeth on there are driven in enough that it actually holds the piece without any. Of course, it's small. That helps too. Won't lie to you. That's half of it. Oh, this is going to hit that big knob. Wow. This is going to be really an eyeball job. Close one eye. That needs to go a country mile that way. At least by what my eye told me. Like I say, I'm not really concerned about that as far as that goes, because we won't know much until we get into get these corners away and get up to the top surface. So let's go sharpen these couple bowl gouges. I'm going to sharpen a 5/8 one too, just because we're trying to make things quicker and easier. I don't use the 5/8 gouges that terribly much. But it will allow me to take a much more substantial cut, more overhang, more tool rest overhang, because it's thicker, so I won't get any vibration out of, as the vibration won't show up as quick. This is actually an old 5/8 bowl gouge. I'm already on the outside, so we don't need to remove any of the heel. So we'll do the 1/2 inchy. Missed a little. Missed a little spot. You can see there was a spot that it didn't touch. Then in order to do the 40 degrees, then I actually switched jigs because the other jig is actually set to do them. I am sort of fortunate enough to have 2 with a grinding jig. Now that don't look right. Did I not get the 2-inch? Ah, that's why it don't look right. I think I used this grinding jig for something else the other day. I never put the arm back to do the 40-degree one. And that'll take a little extra grinding on there. Because I started grinding it wrong. looks all right for that one. I actually have two of the 40-degree ones just by virtue of this one is getting old and it's getting short. So you'll see I said earlier that I used the short one part way and then switched back to the longer one. Doing natural edge work, I want to be able to keep my hands as far away from the things that's going to make you say ouch as I possibly can. So that's then 3. Gotta switch well, maybe we won't switch handles just quite yet because it actually has a big 5/8 spindle gouge in there. And if you like to watch YouTube videos and watch any of Richard Raffin's, he's using a spindle gouge to do a lot of the work on the outside of bowls and such. So maybe we'll have a little bit of a go at it. That sucker's still right there. So that's going to be first order of business, is to take that off. And it's tight. We've spun by hand to make sure nothing's going to hit. Ooh, got a bath right off the bat. It would have been much easier to cut it off. But we got most of it off. Just a little noisy. Because at a whopping 600 RPMs, it's sticky. Some sap coming out of it. Yeah, that works for him. It doesn't jump out at me. Maybe once the rough part is gone, maybe I'll go back to it or something. I just always use bowl gouges for bowls, so. Does this one not fit in that? That one doesn't fit in that handle. I got to get the other handle. So I guess we'll just leave it in there. I'm not really even sure if I could tell you the manufacturer of that bowl gouge. I think that was the one that many, many years ago I bought that had David Ellsworth's name on it. But I don't remember who the manufacturer of those were at that time. Now we got rid of our little lumpy. We can get a little extra 50 RPMs or so out of it. You see what I mean when I say it's almost, especially on small things, it's almost a waste of time to take the corners away. You can turn them away just as quick. And I don't have to clean the bandsaw table up then because of cutting wet wood. Okay, it's there, there, not quite there yet. Another cut or so off of there, and we can. Oh, wait, no, it's not quite rounded where I need it to be round yet. Okay, that should do it. Do it all the way around. So now we can check. Not quite there on that one. Somewhere about there. So that axis needs to come that way a little bit. And come back to this one. And this side needs to come my way a little bit. And then we'll just make one more little cut. And that should have that squared away. Wide enough the water is running, literally running down the flute. That sticky stuff on there. Guess it's sort of sap or something coming out of it. Also is going to make it to be a place that the tool doesn't slide very well. So now we can true up our bottom. And that should be, feels like it is. Shouldn't lay the other tools in the bed of the lathe because getting aggressive there, it gives it a vibration, which is also telling me that you need to take a little bit more time, be a little bit more gentle. We can also probably bring our speed up, yes, which will make it better yet. Part of the curve. We need to know where we're going to. I would say probably once again we're going to take a little bit more off because we're just too much of a mixing bowl time kind of a bowl, at least in my opinion. And in this case, my opinion is the one that counts. So we'll just take another 3/8 or so off of it, and then we'll see whether we can get our curve tucked in where we want it. By the looks of it, it should be able to. Now I did switch back to the smaller gouge. Smaller handle, I can get in closer to the tailstock. The one. I think that'll work just fine. Spindle gouge comes to hand, so won't mess with the parting tool. Just use a spindle gouge to create the dovetail. Clean it up into the corner. A little bit of a concave maybe into that corner. Knock a little bit of that corner off. That will literally be the first place it dries and the first place it can crack. So we don't want any sharp edges. It still looks still don't look tucked in quite far enough. If I mark my tenon in there, and that is one. There is one certain instance that I will use the spindle gouge to do the bowl work. That's a little better shape. So that's going to be, I think I like that better. So now we can get rid of the old tenon. Can even maybe make this one just a shade bit deeper than what it is. I think that'll do the trick around that corner. Almost looks like there's a flat. Does appear there's a flat in there. At least it looks like it. Yeah, there's like a curved and then it's not. So all about playing. So the first scraper that I used was would be the inside of a bowl scraper. The other one that I have and use more so is the one they would consider a shear scraper. This should allow me to kind of straighten up or refine the curve that I have. At least we're going to try it anyhow. See what it actually will do on wet wood. I don't know that I've really tried it on wet wood, but we will now. So that's the bottom part. As you can maybe not see, there's still a dark line in the middle. So I know very good and well that dark line is where that little flat area was. And don't go out onto the bark though. Give me, do that with a spindle gouge. Want just a tiny little flat area there for the cup to register to. It also goes to show that the traditional scraper will cut wet wood very cleanly. If you're so minded to use one. We're going to saw this off. That'll just make it a little bit more challenging when it comes to remounting it. I can saw it off just a little bit proud. We'll see whether the teeth are dug in hard enough not to move, and then I'll just remark it. Feels like it's wiggling, but maybe not. So I just give it another new mark. Doesn't really look like that mark was in the right place, but it's a mark nonetheless. When I go back to do them, I don't necessarily use that center mark anyhow. I usually sort of manipulate them around to where I think that get the closest to being round. To the chuck. So now we can get rid of the inside. Maybe another one bites the dust. Use a shorter gouge. Slow the speed down since we changed something. Should be able to pretty much run it whatever speed I want to, because it should be in balance. Kind of the fun part of doing the little ones there. Once you get done playing around on the outside, it's usually very quick to do the inside. Not quite thin enough yet. Just don't want to run one cut into the other, it will grab it. Then life becomes exciting. I went down a little bit too far, so that made it thin down there. I'm going to take a little bit more out of the top. Kind of a maybe a little downfall doing some of this way I do it. If I go too deep down in there, which is what I did, then it starts to make that bottom area thin really quickly. Tool rest feels a bit on the high side to get to center. I took the bottom one out, so we'll just go back to the 5/8 gouge. We'll try it. Really probably needs more of the heel taken away. It's a fairly tight curve for this tool. It's leaving some compression lines. You won't be able to see them. I can feel them. There's tiny little like bumps in there, and that's because the back of this. You go to the bigger gouge and show it in that camera. You can see I've removed some of the heel. I need to remove quite a bit more of that to allow it to make that tight of a curve, because otherwise this back you can even see the white stuff on it. It's literally digging into the wood as it goes around. But that works. That's 3. I'm have to bring over one of the doubles and cut. I'm also going to have to clean up a little bit, I think. It'll be, I don't know, it'll be semi-interesting. Once you get it down to the final thickness, you'll have a little bit of a color in the bottom. It's nicer if the white sapwood is much smaller than that. Then they look better, I think. Do this one smaller. This thing actually has so much more and sap. So much moisture to it that in the bottom of the tub there's literally water laying. That these are they're being stood straight up. So gravity is pulling the water out the bottom. So we'll just do just sort of what I did with the other ones. The only thing is I'll just cut it on the bandsaw. And now I will make a mess. The bandsaw, I think they were about 7 inches, thereabouts. So if we go to the 7-inch mark, that's too fine of a pencil. Now is it going to leave us 7 inches out there? Pretty much. I guess while we're here, mark about where we want to start center point at. Not a real exacting kind of science on this. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to overthink this. Actually, it's closer to 7 3/4 wide right there for some reason. You'll know when you get through the cambium layer. It's actually, yeah, that's because there's water on it. I'll get it here in a minute. Yeah, I moved that over. This stuff's slinging enough water. That's exactly what it is. There's a little bits of water on it. Let's see whether it's there. That might have made it worse. Might actually have to get a little cleaner out. It did make it worse. A little bit of the face shield cleaner is what I use on that. Not saying that's the right thing to use. There we go. But it cleaned it up. So that's all. All that matters. And put the shower curtain back. And we'll be back in business. A little bit messy to work with the wet wood, but there's no no dust, any of that good stuff. Since these will be twice turned, there's no sanding at this point. Let's just get them to a rough shape. This one's got sap sticking out there. What I was after is to try and get relatively close. That actually looks pretty good for that part of it anyhow. Now we can bring it in, find which one, which is that one. Is our closest one. Speed down, standing off to the side, just in case there's something you forgot to do. Bring it up till we get a vibration, which is going to be about there. That's some gooey stuff. Right there is the goo. That's it. Stick your finger right in it. Lathe doesn't necessarily like the big giant size cuts, even though it's on wet wood, when it's only traveling at 700 RPMs. I could be so minded and move the belt, but I'll just live with it. We're not quite around there yet, but we can still see. We're actually pretty good there. I don't look too bad there even. Let's see what we got. Looks good. Close enough. How are you this fine evening? So now we can make our bottom flat so we can go somewhere else. It works. Yeah, it does work. Had it for quite a few years. Only problem is the handle for the on the banjo is not the original handle was not what it was meant to be. Didn't take me very long before I broke it. But I went for a long time with using a wrench instead, but it's kind of ironic that when you spend the money and buy the, yeah, you buy the replacement, and now all of a sudden it actually is made out of some real metal. Not that the design is any better, but now we're getting closer, so we'll go back to the smaller gouge. I can get in a little tighter. Yeah, this is an ornamental cherry. So probably the likelihood of it surviving is probably not really good. It almost has, it actually, well, this one's not quite as bad, but almost has too much sapwood. Yeah, well, like I say, I've done some other ones that's the ornamental ones, and I have one over there that I took down a tree for my daughter, and it dried for almost a year. I took it out of the bag, and this thing has cracks running straight, right parallel with the grain, the entire way across. It's still sitting over there on the shelf, so we'll see what I want to do with it. Whether I take the time and trouble to put epoxy in it, or just, hey, you win some, you lose some. It's You're dealing with, wet wood. And if you lose it, you lose it. I mean, it's free. Not like I paid anything for it, so I don't get too excited about that. And it is sort of a rough turn, really. This looks like a little branch or something went through there, so that's. I've never, I, I don't particularly care. As far as to do for me, if I was going to use anchor seal on something, it's going to be on just on a half a log or something like that. That's going to sit around a while. I don't do it on the twice on the second or yeah, on something like this. These go in a paper bag without any shavings or anything like that, and they sit over in my. I'm in my basement anyhow. I know you live in Texas and you don't have basements, but we do here in Pennsylvania. So it'll just go in its paper bag and away it goes. And yes, Anchor Seal has gotten ridiculous in price. See, that's how it isn't that many years ago you could buy it, especially if you found somebody that was willing to buy the 5 gallon buckets or whatever it was and resell it, and you could buy it for $10 or $12 a gallon. Now it's like $40 a gallon. And it's like, nope. As far as the logs go, simple latex paint work just as well. I'm not paying for them, so I don't got people that burn firewood. Yep. Now you got to find what works for you. I mean, you're being in Texas, you got a lot more heat and less humidity, so keeping things slowed down drying wise is a whole different world. Because I cannot put. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I put wet shavings in them." I'm like, "Nope, can't do it." And you see that black right there? That's mold already. I'll have a science project. Oh, you have humidity? Okay. So we change things, we slow it down. Actually running true. Should be balanced, should be able to go however fast we want to go. Well, we have humidity too in the summer. And that's the other thing with the cherry. It doesn't the bark's like paper on this stuff, so I don't know that I've had any of this that actually keeps the bark. I'll leave it on there while it dries, and then we'll peel it off after the fact. I do measure them to make sure that my everything is the same thickness. That's probably, as far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest thing to be careful of. I mean, I measure them with the calipers. I don't just measure it with my fingers. If you get them way out of whack, then they will crack quicker. Well, believe it or not, this was actually taken down only a couple months ago, probably 2 months ago at most. So it was still wintertime, but yeah, it was already. We've had a weird winter here for us, so a lot. I mean, these trees were actually already pushing water up through them. I'm not going to complain because my current job at work is a yard jockey, so it wants to stay warm and not be as cold and whatever through the winter. I was good with that. Okay, thank you. We do this on both YouTube and Twitch as well. You care? That's it. Another one bites the dust. So I like turning the green wood. It's quicker, easier, no sanding. Yeah, well, my boy Boyd, he done disappeared on everybody, so I guess he has other things to do. So Saturday night's my night. See if I can mess up the camera again. Who's tech? Yeah, okay. I'm busy. Don't bother me. Yeah, there used to be more as far as the wood turning people and stuff like that, but I don't, I'm not sure what their reasoning was for quit streaming or whatever. I don't know if Boyd actually had to go get a real job or what the story with him was, but there's quite a few of them that don't do it anymore. These things are laying in a or standing up in a tub, like a Rubbermaid tub. And you can see the water is actually trying to run out of them. That's why I'm going to wipe it off because I already had to clean the camera once. So we can half-ass line it up. It's close enough to start. This it'll be a little bit more challenging. Yeah. I'm being lazy tonight. I'm not cutting anything around on the bandsaw. I find it to be just as easy to cut it off on the lathe and deal with just a little extra little bit of chips rather than little itty bitty pieces of wood. Well, these are only about 7 inches, so it is pretty irrelevant to do. Yeah, this one does have some. The only reason I went after this stupid tree, I thought it was bigger than what it was for one. It was covered in little, what appeared to be little burls. The pieces that actually has some nicer sized burls on them. They're actually down in my shed. But some of these have there's some little burl eyes right there on it. One I did earlier had a whole bunch of them on it. So that should be round. Now we can check our points. 5 points all right. Low point, not so much. So we'll change that. This is one of my idiosyncrasies. I think they need to be, as far as I'm concerned, they need to be even, all 4 sides. You know, a lot of people that doesn't really concern them, and they don't bother with it, but I'm just not one of those. The one that'll make it harder to turn, especially on the second turn, because you can never really get them in balance. That's probably almost as good as I'm gonna move it one more time just for the hell of it, but I don't think I'm gonna. The shape of the log is not going to allow it to be even. It sort of has a little bit of a it's actually like a little bit of a burl that's sticking up right there, so it's not going to let me get it totally even. I'll get it closer. I sort of cheat too. I sort of taper into the bottom, even though that's the wrong direction to cut. It will work on green wood. It'll actually sort of work on dry wood to a point. And you can see it wants to break it out. That's good enough. Almost have it balanced. That's good. Do our tenant. Get rid of a corner. one. Probably good enough for a shape on that. Clean up the tenant. When you put the anchor seal on your bowls, do you do the whole bowl inside and out? Just do the ends inside and out? Another one of them places, another one of them things. You ask 100 people, you get 120 different answers. See some of the people like Glenn Lucas that do the kiln drying of his bowls. He only does the outside end grain and then puts them in the kiln, which I was kind of surprised at. But once again, it works for him. So when you do a couple thousand bowls a year, I would think he ought to have it down pat. Change things so we slow down, make sure. Now to really fling water. Good. Do enough of them in a row, you have a tendency to really start to be able to look at things and say it looks right. And that should be that. Got some Beautiful little spirals going in there. A little too much overhang for a 1/2 inch tool, but that's good. It's wet wood, green turn. Not worried about it. Just kind of being lazy. You go to the thicker tool. That would have made it better. Stuff is slopping wet. Let's see, we're at 8 o'clock, so I think we're just that's gonna be a call it a night kind of thing. We're gonna have to clean up the mess. That is kind of the other rather adventure part of doing wet wood is you don't want to do this when you're limited on time. Like for me, when I come home from work, I would not think of coming down here and doing any kind of wet wood because I would only have an hour and a half maybe to work. And it just takes too long to clean up the mess. And you definitely don't want to leave like this. This is water. There's literally water laying on the bed. And it's turned black, so it's already oxidizing. So that means we get to clean everything. Doesn't take real long, but does take a bit of time. Yep. I actually found some that looks like a giant sized chapstick. This is somebody shit, now I can't think of his name. Used to stream. Lives down in Georgia, Kentucky. Star Metal Craving. He talked about it. It was a private guy that was making it. Made for like machinery and things of that nature. And it's a wax called Plain Magic. Neat stuff. Yeah, he's another one that. Oh yeah, we got water all over that lens again. Yeah. Yeah, well, clean the lens again. Another one of those guys that I really don't know what happened to him. I know he was in sort of threat of losing his job. So I don't know if that's what happened to him. I did see him stream a couple times, but he was playing video games or whatever rather than doing any turning work. So now we clean up the mess. And resharpen tools. But started the latest it's kind of adventure, I guess you'd call it, in the wood turning world is they approached me a couple weeks ago about coming and teaching classes at my local woodcraft. And I did say yes, and me and another guy both said we would help him out, but it is an adventure. I tell you that. It, it it is a bit of an adventure. And it's kind of some of the adventure is why people think that they should start out their doing something in wood turning and start out with something like a bowl rather than starting out with something simpler, but kind of our job to try and fumble them through it I did one class so far, and that was a pepper mill. But I only had two people, and I was very glad that I only had two people because they were not very well versed on anything wood turning. So to try and do a project right off the bat was a bit challenging. We fumbled through it. It took me longer to do the class than I intended, than what it's scheduled for. It's scheduled for 3 hours, and I think I almost took 4. But they were happy campers when they went home because they had a pepper mill that was mostly pretty much complete. All they had to do was go home and maybe do a little final sanding to it and finish it and put it together. Now the other guy that is said he would do it. We're both from the same wood turning club, which we meet at the woodcraft store. So that's how they tracked us down. But he's doing a bowl turning class tomorrow. But he's also limiting, because that was the other thing we could do, was limit them as to how many people you could have at one time. And just played something in my ear. Actually, I had it over on YouTube, so I don't really know what it was. It doesn't show up. But I think I'm gonna go over tomorrow. It's tomorrow afternoon, so I think I'm gonna. And I'm not normally off on a Sunday. I work Sunday through Thursday. But I told him I'd come over and help him, and it's kind of like two of us are trying to kind of a learning process for both of us. Although he's never went and taken any classes himself with any of the professional people. So he's a little bit less understanding how them guys teach people. Me, I like to take the classes. I think they're fun. Expensive, but fun. You can always learn a bunch, usually. Nothing else, you can learn how to spend more money on the wood turning addiction. Because almost all the people that teach like that, almost all of them have some sort of tools and whatnot that they sell. So that's that part. It's going to go out on my garden, cover the ground up so the weeds don't grow. Now we got to clean up the bed. A little Scotch-Brite pad, a little bit of denatured alcohol. It's usually what I use. You could use like WD-40 and things like that. Denatured alcohol seems to work quite well. Well, that's cool. Our club meets at the woodcraft store that's local to us. So we don't, at one point years ago, we actually had somebody that had a big enough, big enough shop to accommodate doing like a hands-on kind of class or whatever. But he's had some health issues and other issues or whatever, so we pretty much kind of just do the monthly meeting, and that's pretty much it as far as our turning club goes. Oh, there you go. Did you have fun doing it? Okay, there you go. It could be fun. I don't know. I kind of think it's kind of fun to do some of the demonstrating. Yeah, that's kind of why I started streaming originally, was because that's kind of where I would like to go. I have about 3 years, a little less than 3 years maybe now, to work before I retire. So that's sort of what the path planning on going down, is the demonstrating or teaching part of it from there. So this was kind of sort of a blessing in disguise in some ways, to be able to get started with it. Oh, there you go. What do you do with them after you record them? Put them out on YouTube, or you just put them out for just your club members? Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I know there's a lot of, or there's some clubs that'll do that stuff. Because if you're going to put it out there for anybody to see, then they probably would have more trouble getting people to do demonstrations, because they don't want the whole world to see what they're doing or whatever. People are kind of funny about some of that stuff, and they would never, most of them people would never think of doing any kind of a live stream. So that's the plain magic stuff. I will pull the banjo the whole way out, do the bottom of that too. Your local symposium or the AAW symposium? Oh, the AAW. Where's it at next year? Man, you got information I don't have. Or at least I haven't seen anyhow, put it that way. Is it coming back to the East Coast? Twin Cities, MN is Minnesota. Oh, okay. Okay. That's what I thought was Minnesota. What time of the year? June. Yeah, well, see, you're a good man. Most people won't. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's quite a few. Or I shouldn't say quite a few. There's some of our people that come to our club that are driving close to an hour to come to the meetings and whatnot. the big symposiums are kind of, I don't know, they're kind of neat. I've been to a couple of them, but is that right? Wow. You're a knowledgeable kind of guy. I couldn't tell you them kind of things. Of course, it really doesn't concern me. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's where it's all about. That's where it's all at. Because the AAW symposiums, I, they're too darn expensive. I mean, granted, there's all that, tons and tons of demonstrations or whatever, but oh yeah, you're in with the right crowd there. Yep. Yes. I know who. I've never met her. Actually, I watched a YouTube that she did a while back, doing mushrooms and that kind of stuff, and then turn around and do some power carving on them. I thought that was I thought that was quite interesting. Interesting enough that it cost me money because I ended up. It's like she said about only needing like two or three or four different burrs, and I'm like, well, shit, I don't have any of those four. So, needless to say, I ended up buying a few burrs. I do have the Fordham Carver, but oh, okay. Is that where he's from? See, I couldn't told you that he was from that area either. Is it close enough that Lyle Jameson comes to it? I've never met him either. See, or did I? I mean, I might have met him at a symposium somewhere. Seems like a very nice guy. Yeah, well, that's another thing that's becoming less and less of too, is being able to get any of those people. I think there's actually getting to be less and less of the people that are willing to travel and do demonstrations, is what I gathered out of it. I know like Cindy Droz has said that she's pretty much done traveling anywhere. And she can do a better demonstration from her own shop than what she could to travel to do something like that. So Michael Macho. Hmm. I don't think I know that name. Macho. Macho or Monaco? No, he's not from New Mexico. Okay. And he came and did a live demonstration for you? That's pretty cool. We haven't had any of them at our club in years. Probably some of that stuff there is, Okay. Yeah, well, that's kind of the other, I don't know, to me, some of the other downfall of some of it is that, some of them people want to charge a small fortune to do that stuff. I mean, I get it that they're making their living trying to make their living doing that, but some of it, for the smaller clubs that don't have, hundreds of members or whatever, it just becomes uh, a non-cost effective kind of a thing for them to, bring somebody, bring somebody in, a professional turner in for a day, or even like there and do a couple day classes or whatever afterwards or something. I think to me, in some of it, and this would just be my opinion, I think some of them people were sort of pricing themselves out of work, sort of. And I'm really not even sure how much they're getting anymore. I know what the people are getting that are doing classes in their own shops or what have you. They just keep going up and up and up, and it's like, sooner or later people will stop coming because they can't afford to, or they're going to have to save for years or whatever to be able to afford to go to something like that. It just, to me, some of it they just kind of take the fun out of it. Oh, okay. I have the off-center jig, and to be quite honest with you, I never really played with it that much. Because what I bought it for was mainly to do like pendants and things like that. And I guess I just sort of lost interest in it, I guess. Other downfall of doing wet wood is I got to try and get my face shield clean. Okay. You're making little round earring, like disc type earrings on the joiner jig, I assume. Right. But then they're all the same. That's what somebody would say to me if I said that. Oh, well, yeah, right. Yeah, what you're doing, you need. Yeah, I wasn't thinking along those lines. If you're gonna do pendants or earrings, you would need two the same. Do you put any grain filler or anything like that in um, the grooves that you cut out in the pendants? You ever done any of that? There's a well worth product if you're ever anywhere that somebody's selling that. It's made by Uvex, the same people that make that face shield. That does a wonderful job cleaning their face shields. I'll be right back. I gotta go get a couple paper bags. I don't think I have it on. Maybe. Okay. Widen things out. As wide as we're going to go. Um, what was going to ask you? Oh, you said you demonstrated bottle stoppers. Do you do the bottle stopper that would be tall and sits however many inches above the bottle? Or do you do the ones that are drilled out and sit down over the bottle? And I can't show you what I mean because I don't have any. I don't think I have any down here. I might. I do date them. Put it on the bottom of them. For me, this is all I do with them is I put them in the paper bag, let them sit for probably 8 months to a year, and then take them out. Usually along, if I'm really a really good boy, I'll take them out at about 8 months. Oh, there you go. Okay. Do you know what? Have you ever seen the ones that fit down over? Or do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? I should say. I don't make a whole lot of bottle stoppers. It's actually another one of those things that I need to make. I do a handful of craft shows, and that's one of the things that never really overly sold overly well. But I would always pay attention to what people would be saying or things like that. And I will be right back because I do have to go get a paper bag. Um, where do you get the kit from? Hold on a second because I got out of range of my mic. And how much are you said you got them, Rockler. Yeah. How much are the kit? How big a pizza cutters are you making? Okay. Is that the big pizza cutter? Because I see they make two different sizes. They make like a whatever, a 3 inch and a 4 inch or something. You do you sell them when you're done with them, or just give them away? So you're getting the ones that are like 4 inches in diameter, something like that. I haven't. So if you're paying $20 for the material, you are probably trying to get 40 out of them. At least that would be my thoughts. Oh, okay. I have never done any pizza cutters. I generally stay away from the most of those kind of kits that cost that kind of money. Like I say, if I was going to make them, I would hope to get right. I mean, I could be doing the same. I could do the same thing with some of that stuff because I have a bunch of 8-quarter black walnut that I got for free. But I have not done any pizza cutters. I know some of the guys at our club will do some of them, but right now for me, that kind of thing is sort of going to be put on a little bit on the back burner for the next 3 months. Oh, there you go. I live in suburbia, so I don't. Pretty much all my trees are gone. I did have a cherry tree several years ago that I took down, but I have good access to lots of wood. There's a couple older gentlemen in our club. One's a retired. Shit. Forgot one small detail. I need some pictures. The only downfall of doing a live stream on YouTube is it wants a picture, and if you don't put a picture on there, it uses the picture from previous. So once again, I'm being a bad boy and not taking pictures. I'll just get 3 of them back out. I'll take a simple picture, and we'll put them back in. Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania, so I mean, black walnut is pretty easy to come by too here. Um, I'm not necessarily a fan of working with black walnut, primarily because my nose don't like it. I don't know if I'm a little bit allergic to it or what have you. So I've built furniture and stuff since I was very young, and I stayed away from the black walnut because it'll close me right up. I've found that I can turn it without having too bad, without getting too bad of a reaction to it. But this is what you call doing your work twice. But I've started, or just I should say, getting started teaching classes at my local woodcraft store, and that's why I say it's going to be three. It'll be 3 months before I do any of some of that stuff. They have they have some really nice. Yeah, well, yeah. Gotta gotta watch some of that stuff, and then the younger generation, they all want to turn or work with all the exotic woods and stuff like that, and I'm like, you have fun. I said, because there's some of that you can be highly allergic to. Not to mention it costs a small fortune. Um, but now for me as a so-called woodcraft employee, once my 3 months is up, then I get a very serious discount on pretty much anything in the store, and it's quite a substantial discount. So it's like, yeah, that's I'll just wait, and I have a couple ice cream scoops that I've done, so I have some for the craft shows. I have a bunch of bottle openers that I got a long time ago and got them at a really good price because I bought like 50 of them or something like that. But I'm gonna wait and I'll wait till my 3 months is up, and then I'll get the super duper discount. And that's gonna be one of my classes too. Probably I think I'm gonna probably do once a month. Right. That's what it's. We meet at a woodcraft store, and on club night, that's the only time they'll give the discount. But yeah, we get the 10%. But I won't elaborate on the what the employee discount is, but it's huge. It's actually a small percentage above what cost is. So that's why when you go into, I'm sure your Rockler's the same way. They have a bunch of old retired guys in there that maybe were in that business or whatever, and that's because I'm sure they're not paying them any kind of money. Um, Doing the classes actually pays fairly well, but oh yeah, well that's even better yet. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it's kind of like beer 30 for me, but I am here on Saturday evenings generally. Um, like I say, this is on YouTube as well, both at the same time. So if there's something you missed or you wanted to go back or whatever, it stays on YouTube versus the Twitch only stays there for a week or two. Um, yeah, you're right. It's almost nine for me. It's almost 9 o'clock. So yeah, but I don't have to work tomorrow, or I would have quit earlier. Enough. Yeah, that's my wife. Enough. Time for a snack and a beer or two or three. So I'm gonna end my YouTube one first, and then we'll go back over here to Twitch and see if we can find.